What is up, everybody? It is Court with Roger from the restaurant Rockstars. We are here to talk about all of your menu questions, how to set up menu items. So, Roger, we're going to dive right in. So, one of the things you talk about is the science of menu design. What does that mean?
Well, a menu is not just a list of food. There is a strategy and a science behind maximizing your profit from your menu and making sure that it's on strategy and on brand. The menu is your most important marketing tool because it's something that every single guest sees, and it either maximizes opportunities for your restaurant or it leaves lots of money on the table. So there's a science to that.
Tell me, what's the science?
Okay, so let's talk about some common mistakes that we see.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, besides already mentioning it being a list of food, I see so many menus that the fonts are small and the menus are dark, and you walk into a restaurant and you almost need to turn on the flashlight on your phone to read the thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's one mistake. The next thing, the biggest thing, is there's so many restaurants that just don't know what profit every one of those items is contributing to their bottom line at their peril. And I do know for a fact, when working with many clients, that they're losing money on their menus, especially with volatile cost of goods and rising costs. And if you had a breakfast place over the last couple of months and eggs go through the roof, and it's like, okay, I know I'm paying more for this, but it's like, am I charging accordingly? Are my margins dropping significantly? Am I over reliant on eggs on that menu when I really need to be bringing in other things to take attention off of what's costing me the most? I mean, these are all mistakes that restaurants are missing, but you got to know which items are your most profitable for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some creative menu design things you've seen? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot here. I'll give you one. I was at one where they had it was basically a laminated menu for a burger place. And it was like, check off your meat, check off your toppings, check off your condiments, check off your cheese. And it was like, you just checked it off and you just handed it to the staff. And it was kind of fun, right? It was a different way of doing it. Have you seen any other things like that or fun things?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because I used to like Romano's Macaroni Grill for that very reason. Okay. Because I'm a big pasta guy. I mean, I love pasta. I've been to Italy numerous times. It's like I walk in the door and they had the Italian music playing, and you walk in the bathroom and they're like speaking Italian, and it feels like you're in Italy. It kind of transports you away. They used to put a big giant bottle, a scuba tank, I call it, of wine, and you could pour your own, and it's on the honor system, and you'd sit there and it would encourage you to drink wine. It was just a fun experience, but they did that exact thing. You could select your own type of pasta from like 5 or 6 different pastas and check the box. I want the cavatappi, or I want the penne, or the rigate, or whatever it was. You could pick your sauce, and then you could pick any number of ingredients that you wanted to go into that pasta and kind of create your own. I did that every time because it was super fun. And I wouldn't always get the same thing. I'd change my pastas and change my sauce and change my toppings. And so that was cool. But the biggest thing that I used to do in my restaurants was creative names and descriptions. Okay. Don't just say the chicken parmesan or whatever. I had wacky, crazy names for every single menu item because, one, it attracts your guests' attention. It sounds kind of cool. You describe it. And these things tend to sell themselves. And most importantly, it takes emphasis off of the price, because if you got their attention, the nacho explosion, wing madness, the raspberry cream disaster, the chocolate peanut butter blast, it's like it sells itself because it sounds so compelling. You want to order it. So I always thought that was a really powerful thing to do.
Yeah. And ChatGPT would be a great way to help you come up with ideas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. But make it exciting. I mean, a dining out experience is just that. It's an experience. You're not just selling food and drink to people. You're giving them an event, and naming the food really funky names and making sure that you describe it so that they can visualize it, they can taste it, they can see it and smell it before they even order it. That sells product.
Love it. Would you recommend like Canva? I use Canva all the time. Photoshop for Dummies, right?
Yeah.
They have menu designs in there. Are those good, or should a restaurant owner go hire like a graphic designer to do something? What do you think?
I think you can do it yourself, provided you're on brand and on strategy. So every restaurant has a logo, its colors, and its font. And I even went so far, I had a Swiss chalet restaurant as one of my themes, and I wanted a European font. And even though there's thousands of fonts out there, I couldn't find one. And I thought that was a part of my marketing, my branding. So I hired a graphic designer to create a European looking font that I used. It was very readable, but it transported you to Europe versus the standard. So yes, I think a graphic designer can help, but it's not always necessary. Provided you're on strategy, it represents your brand well so that you feel like it's immediately identifiable to your guests. So I
Yeah.
would say that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe even a simpler thing. I'm starting to see people with QR codes on tables and just be like, go to this QR code to see our menu, which their menus basically on their website. So they don't even print menus.
That's
So
okay, I believe, for fast casual or quick serve when people are in a hurry and they're looking for convenience. But if we're talking about a full serve and not necessarily a fine dining place, but a full serve restaurant or a family casual place, I still think that a menu is your marketing tool. You want to give them a menu, but you want to train your staff to know that product knowledge inside and out, to know what your special items are, to know what your hooks and signature items are, to read their tables and really bring the experience to life. I mean, QR codes are everywhere now. Everyone uses them.
yeah.
But unfortunately, I would never want the technology to replace the hospitality.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. I'm just seeing that more and more. So it's interesting. Very good.
Yeah, it's great in airports when you got to catch a plane. Okay, I scan it, I can order it, boom, and it gets delivered to me and it's fast in, fast out. Or, just quick serve, sure. But I don't think it's really got its. I think QR codes have their place in full serve restaurants when you're trying to promote an event that's upcoming, or you're trying to draw attention to something unique or different, or a special promotion or a holiday or something, but not the menu.
Okay.
Just my
Excellent.
personal feeling. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, next question here is about menu costing and profitability. And so, what's a simple way that restaurants can analyze their menu? They maybe have a bazillion, like I go to Cheesecake Factory and they have a bazillion
It's
items on there.
unbelievable.
And I'm like, but how can
I'm always
restaurant
amazed at
owners
that.
like figure out the profitability?
Well, first, you can be sure that the Cheesecake Factory has the profitability on every single item dialed, okay?
Yeah.
But you're bringing up a common issue with restaurants where they're not keeping up with costing out their menus. And
Mm.
even if they have costed them out, they're not using the data to decide, am I charging enough money for this item? Is my menu overall very profitable? So I know we've talked about this before, but I just wrapped up a consulting gig with a five location pizzeria in the state of Texas, and I just showed them one, the menu wasn't costed out, so we costed out the menu. And then I rank every single item in every category from the most profitable to the least profitable. And then you got a ton of cost information there. I plugged that into a template I've created. I ask for point of sale data for a good date range, at least a year. And if they change the menu twice a year, you got 6 months. But the most data you can plug in, the more telling the information. This pizzeria left a potential profit last year of $885,000 on the table across those 5 locations. One, because the menu is way too expensive. They had extensive, not expensive. They had over 23 different specialty pizzas, and they're losing money on every single one of those that isn't in relation to the most profitable item that they wanted to sell, the most profitable pizza. But we're talking about every category did this.
Mhm.
And it's okay to be within a dollar profit of each item, but not $3, $4, $5. The biggest thing was they sold 57,000 cheese pizzas across those 5 stores. And every time they sold the cheese pizza, they were getting $8 and change less profit on that one versus the most profitable pizza. And then the range in between on those 22 other pizzas was losing $2 here and $4 there and $7 there. So the pizza category alone left $665,000 profit on the table. And the other categories contributed the rest, the appetizers, the soups and salads. They had sandwiches and wraps and all that kind of stuff. Boy, is that telling information that hits restaurants like a ton of bricks. So they have to cost out their menu. And I specialize in this. I will work with a guest. I'll work with a customer on that very process. But It's the biggest needle mover right now. You're paying high labor cost, you're paying, expensive cost of goods, but if your menu isn't maximizing profit, you're leaving so much money on the table, and I see it over and over again.
Yep. Agree. And so if you're watching this and you're looking at making your menu more profitable, reach out to Roger. He is the guru on that. So you also talk about the prime cost formula.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a common term in our industry. And I travel the country a lot speaking at major food shows, and I do talk to a lot of restaurant owners and managers, and a lot of them just don't know what that means. And it's very simple mathematics, but essentially, and well, here's another thing. It starts with taking inventory, and that does not mean placing next week's order. That means calculating the value of your food and beverage on hand at least every single week for 4 weeks so that you get what I call the sweet spot of consistency. It's like you don't want to have a 32% food cost 1 week, and then it's a 36 the next week, and it's a 28, and it's all over the place. You don't know what your food cost is. So you do it 4 weeks in a row. You take physical counts of everything on hand, food and beverage, you plug it. I have the templates for this too. I have the complete system, but you have to figure out your cost of goods. So what is prime cost? Prime cost is the sum total of your food, beverage, and labor cost combined expressed as a percentage. How do you calculate it? First, you need to know what your food cost is consistently, what that sweet spot. Let's just say it's 30% for food cost. Beverage cost, especially if you sell lots of alcohol, should be lower. If you sell a lot of alcohol and it's profitable to sell, you should be somewhere in the 20 to 22% range for that. So the first thing you do is you add your food cost percentage to your beverage cost percentage, and you divide that by 2 because it's an average of your food and beverage. So if you've got a 30% food cost and a 20% beverage cost, that's 50%. Divide by 2, and now you got 25% average food and beverage, if you're following me. The third step is adding your labor cost to that. Maybe you got a 30% labor cost, and now you've got a 55% profit. No, I'm sorry, 55% prime cost. Okay, the simple math, what does that mean? Let's just say you're fortunate enough to have 55%. That means there's only 45 cents left for every dollar of sales to pay all the other expenses beyond your food, beverage, and labor costs. The biggest one is probably the lease on your property or your mortgage if you own the building. Then you've got utilities, and you've got all the other expenses. You got the dumpster in the parking lot, you got the insurance, the workers' comp, and it goes on and on. And how much money is really left over? And that's why margins are shrinking, because costs are going up, margins are shrinking. And if you're above 55 to 60%, it's like, how are you going to make it, right? So as close as you can get to that 55%, and then really cost out your menu, really make sure you're maximizing profit, that's really going to move the needle for you. But that's prime cost. But every restaurant needs to know what their prime cost is, or if they don't, then wow, at your peril.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. You menu pricing strategies. You might have touched on this a little bit, but what are some smart pricing strategies that they can use to increase revenue without turning off customers?
First thing you need to do is shop your competition. Okay. Go to what you would consider to be 2 or 3 of your competitors that are selling similar menu items and see how their pricing or what their pricing model looks like. Not that you know what their costs are, you would never know what products or ingredients they're using, but it gives you a reference point, and it gets you closer to what your customers are thinking. Okay, if a chicken parmesan is $25 on the menu here and I'm suddenly $30, what's the customer going to think if they see the same dishes at a lower price? So you got 3 things. You can price lower than the competition only if you're in a solid sweet spot with your food cost. And then cash cows come into this. That's a really important thing. A cash cow is an item that has very high perceived value on your menu. You can charge really good money for it, but it does not cost very much to serve the guest. So it's almost pure profit. That takes some menu design, but the more cash cows you can add to the menu, it lowers your food cost, it increases your profit, and it allows you to charge a little bit less. But that's only one strategy, okay? Lower than the competition. Meet the competition's price, okay? But add value. better service. Guest service is the biggest competitive advantage. If you deliver true hospitality, if you train your team to make friends with your guests so that they ask for you by name the next time they come in, to build affinity with the guests, that's huge. And then the more value add that you can give, the more fun you make the experience, you can charge a little bit more. But bottom line here is, if you've suddenly costed out your menu and you've run my analysis, and I have a complete course on this. We call it the Menu Profit Accelerator at my website. But if you go through all this and you figure out that your biggest sellers are lower profit items, that tells you that the market will bear a higher price because they love that item. If you ever took it off the menu, they'd complain like you read about. So you can adjust the price, like that pizza example. Losing $8 on a cheese pizza times 57,000 pizzas sold, you can raise the price on that because people order it every day, all day long. And if you don't know this data, how can you make an intelligent decision? And then the last thing is, you need to communicate. If ever you have a dramatic price increase, and the only time that happens is when the price of eggs goes through the roof and you've got a breakfast place, or chicken goes through the roof and you got a Mexican place, you got to let your customers know and communicate to them, I'm not trying to take advantage of the situation. Our prices on this increased dramatically. It's 80% of our menu, and we just have to pass that along. And when the price comes down, we appreciate your business. Just that communication goes a long way, and people will support you on that.
Yep. Saw that just the other day when I went out to a breakfast place. They had it on the doors like, hey, here's the price of eggs.
It's unbelievable, right? I know. And
it's
a hard time to be a restaurateur. It really is.
Yep.
But you got to run your restaurant like a business. You can't run a restaurant. You have to analyze, and you have to know the data, and you have to apply the data. And then most of the things we're talking about today can be easily executed, and then train your team to help you take on this stuff, because owners, their bandwidth is shrunk, and they're they've been beat up bad since the pandemic. So now it's about being smart and running a business.
Do you typically see that owners have things underpriced or overpriced typically?
Well, the guests, I keep using the word guest because it's in my head. I don't like to use the word customers that come into restaurants, but we're talking about owners and managers here. I think they're really, really afraid of raising prices for a very good reason. The labor challenges that they've had, and being short-staffed as often as they have, when a guest comes in, they still expect a certain level of service and hospitality. And if guests are kept waiting, and if guests are suddenly, getting poorer service, yet they're being charged higher prices for things that they remember paying less for, it's a big turnoff, and it's a negative thing that will that'll hurt you on online reviews and all of that. So again, that's why it's so important to communicate. But overcoming the labor challenge is still what you have to do, and recruit people. Don't hire them. Ask your good people, who do you know that might be looking for another job where they're treated with respect and teamwork, and you build a company culture, and then you don't have a labor problem. So that's one solution to, I can go on and on about several other ideas to bring new employees into a restaurant, but that's what I'm seeing. But they're afraid to raise prices just based on the fact that they know that their service levels have dropped. They know that the staffing has affected the customer experience. So they're really afraid of losing that customer entirely. So they're going to take it on the chin, even though they can't afford to. Just based on that one big challenge that they all need to solve right now.
And that's where you come in to help them look at the menu. So
exactly.
Excellent. What about like seasonal promotions? Like, we're recording this right now, it's March, so we're coming into spring and then summer. What do you think about doing like a spring promotion? We got Easter coming up, Mother's Day. What do you think?
That's how you grab the guests' attention and stay on their radar and make it fun for them, because there are so many events and so many holidays and so many things that you can just get into the spirit and promote on social media or SMS and texting people, but get your team into the spirit. So if you were to look at a calendar, there's a major food holiday just about every couple of weeks. It's National Hot Dog Day, and it's National Burger Day and Cupcake Day. And if you serve those foods, you want to take advantage of that and promote that. There's, like you said, St. Patrick's Day, there's Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Super Bowl, Cinco de Mayo, Mardi Gras. It's like there's a million different holidays that your staff get all dressed up. Like for Super Bowl, every one of my team members would wear a jersey and they'd black out their eyes, and they'd look like football players. And Valentine's Day, it's like we got into the spirit and we promoted the heck out of those things. We'd come up with, if not a special menu, at least a special menu item that's on theme. And it was a very profitable item to sell. And we just sold and sold and sold, but we delivered an experience. So I don't want any restaurant to miss out on all these potential opportunities because, if you're not doing it, your competitors are.
Yep, you're right. There are a bazillion food holidays, and there's no way to keep up with all of them. And that was a struggle I had a few years ago because I would wake up in the morning, open up Instagram, and be like, "Holy cow, it's National Cheese Pizza Day! I better get a post up for a client." So that shameless plug, I create a planner, 365-day planner with ideas every single day of the year.
And that's an excellent planner, by the way.
So. Yeah. Well, thank you. So, if you want to grab it, I'll drop the link below. Totally free, but that at least allows you to think ahead, and that's what I encourage people to do
strategically. Yep, right.
Don't let it sneak up on you. Have a plan. What are you going to do for Hot Dog Day? Are you going to dress up like leprechauns for St. Patty's Day? What
Absolutely.
Are you going to do? So
I used to empower my people to execute some of these things, and they were incentivized that if this night was a big hit, I'm going to give you a piece of the action. It's like I involved my team. They got into the spirit. And that was one of the ways we lowered turnover. We had a high retention rate. It was fun. It was our company culture. It's like everyone felt like they were contributing something to the restaurant and they were incentivized to do so. It was awesome.
Excellent. Okay. What's a proven strategy to turn those slow nights, like a Monday, Tuesday, when it's really slow, to get butts in seats? What can you do?
Yeah. Well, there's several things. Locals night of whatever your theme is in your restaurant, do something around your menu or around your theme. And it really helps if you have a beverage program and if you have a bar and if you sell alcohol or at least beer and wine, because people will make money, they'll help you make money on the alcohol side, even if you're discounting the food on a slower night. So case in point, my slowest night in one of my pizzerias was always a Tuesday. And we came up with this idea. We called it $5 pizza night. Okay. We had one size only pizza. It's the way they do it in Italy. So we had a 12-inch pizza that everyone would buy, and it was $5 with their choice of any two toppings. And we did this for years. But we ended up selling quite a bit of alcohol. And then we turned it into an event where we brought in an acoustic musician who was singing Beatles songs and Cat Stevens and the kind of stuff that everybody knows and loves that's entertainment. And that was a draw. The $5 pizza was a draw, but then people started laughing and calling it $45 pizza night because they'd end up getting 3 drinks and a pizza and the check would be like 40 or 45 bucks. But the night grew and grew and grew. And we did offer the value of the $5 pizza. We had the alcohol, we had the musician. It was an entertaining thing, and that was huge. Yeah. We also did this thing called the Great Dining Passport because I had several restaurants all within a couple miles of each other. And I thought, wow, I really want to get people in more days than on weekends. So you can have certain exclusions when you don't need or want the business. So you can come up with a promotion for a Monday, a Tuesday, or any midweek day if you have extra capacity. This is how it worked. I printed up this coupon that looked like a passport to going to Europe kind of thing. And it simply said, if you dine in any of my restaurants 3 times in a 30-day period over the course of a month and bring in the receipts, and it can be all 3 of those restaurants. It could be 3 times in the same restaurant. I don't care. Just dine in my restaurants 3 times a month. And then I'm going to give you a $20 gift card to any of those restaurants. And that became huge. And again, if you know what your food cost is, that's literally what it costs you. It's not a $20 cost. It's literally your food cost on that $20 gift card. So if you got a 28 or 30% food cost, it's pennies on the dollar, drives business in the door. People talk about it. There's social media value. That became a huge promotion. So the bottom line is get creative, get resourceful. What can you do that's on brand, on theme with your menu and your concept to get people in the door to really talk about your restaurant? And there's marketing value to that in addition to driving business on those slow days.
Great ideas. Brilliant ideas. Okay. Okay. So if you were to open a new restaurant today, how would you structure it different than you did 10 years ago when you were operating your restaurant?
Well, I was really successful 10 years ago because that's when I sold my restaurants at the height of their popularity and I got out of the business. But if we were to
Yeah.
go back in time when I first started, I had to learn all these things. But again, I think the biggest thing would be cost out your menu and then redesign a new menu where everything contributes in each category a very similar profit. So in an appetizer category, when things aren't that expensive, I like everything to be within 50 cents of each other in terms of profit. The entrees are more expensive. Everything should be $1 or less among the profit difference. And then we don't care what we're selling as long as we're moving the merchandise. We don't have a waste, a theft, or a spoilage problem. Then you're happy, your guests are happy. And then portion control standards, I don't see a lot of that. And if we were to go back in time, 30 years ago when I started my first restaurant, I just opened this pizzeria and I'm standing on the pizza line and I'm watching 3 different pizza makers make that one size pizza. And one person puts 10 slices of pepperoni on it and another puts 12 and one other person puts 14. And I'm like counting the slices as they're putting them on there. I went to my kitchen manager. I'm like, what does the spec call for? I just watched 3 different people put 3 different amounts of pepperoni on this pizza. She's like 10. The spec calls for 10. I'm like, well, how many hundreds of pizzas have we sold since we opened when this kid put 4 extra slices on every pizza? And what did that do to our food cost and our profit? Eureka, we need portion controls across our organization. So we worked for a week on every single system or procedure to make every single food, photograph of the food, spec sheet, and then checks and balances to make sure everybody did it the right way. And boy, if
Yeah.
that didn't lower our food costs and increase our profit, and that was a lesson learned 30 years ago that everyone needs to do today.
Yeah. What I hear from you is, staff training is so important. You got to get them to
Absolutely.
know the menu, know what to recommend, know what are profitable things, and all those things. Are you having like staff meetings? How often? Where you kind of get them together and say like,
Every day, 2
yeah,
different meetings. Okay, so I'm a huge believer in the team huddle, also known as the pre-shift. And
okay,
I'm not talking about 20 minutes. I'm talking about a focused 5 to 10 minutes, okay, on strategy, okay? What are you going to say to your guests? How are you going to build a relationship with a customer? Are you going to find out if they're first-time visitors? Are you going to tell them, what are you going to recommend? And it's not just about tasting the food and this is tonight's chef special. It's a strategy session. And then we'd have role playing, okay? We would have constant role playing where one night on the pre-shift we'd talk about strategy, the next pre-shift 2 days later for 10 minutes I'm randomly calling on my people. Okay, you're the guest and you're the host. Walk me through the experience and tell me how you're going to break the ice and make a suggestion and what your favorites are. And we'd keep people on their toes. And I did pop quizzes all the time. They needed to know their menus inside out. I never wanted a guest to ask one of my team members a question where they said, I don't know, let me go ask my manager. I mean, there's no bigger turnoff than that. They needed to be drilled constantly into a well-oiled machine so that they were brand ambassadors for my business. That was huge. That was the first thing, the pre-shift. Once a month, every month, we did a much more in-depth session, 30 minutes, and I called it How to Turn $100 into $1,000. I went to the bar drawer or petty cash and I pulled out $100. I pulled out one $20 bill, 2 tens, a couple of fives, and the rest $1. I randomly shuffled the money and I put it on the dining room table or conference room or wherever we did this. I had all these things assembled that I called props because this is show business, it's entertainment. A prop is how we bring the show to life. So I might have a dessert, a bottle of wine, a table tent that offered some upcoming promotion, something that advertised the band that's playing this weekend, retail merchandise like a t-shirt or a hoodie or a pint glass, stuff that we sold. All these things are props. And then I randomly called on people, okay, sell that to me. And I don't mean sell it. I'm like, bring it to life and make the guest know about it, want it, suggestive, sell it, whatever. And if they did a good job, they could take a buck, a bill off the stack. Maybe they got a dollar bill, maybe they got a $5 bill, maybe they got a $20 bill. And over the course of the next week, we watched that $100 bill just about every day turn into an additional $1,000 of sales because they're suggestive selling and they're creating experiences for the guests. They're using their own unique personalities to give lots of reasons for guests to have a great time and come back and then share the word on social media. So that was just huge. We did that often.
Excellent. Roger, you are a wealth of knowledge. If anybody wants to chat with you, if they want to learn more about how they can get involved, how can they find you?
Yeah, simple. Email me. I'd love to get back to you. I love talking shop with operators. I do have consulting opportunities open, but there's no obligation. I'll just chat with you. You got a business challenge, I'll answer your question. It's Roger, spelled Roger, at restaurantrockstars.com.
Excellent. And I'll drop a link below where people can see and everything you've got in the academy. Again, I can't say enough good things about it. It is like a master class for restaurant owners, like, everything you need to know. So it's a fantastic resource that you.
And then there's also the free podcast. So we have the weekly Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Wow, 750,000 plays, 430 plus episodes. And every week I interview a new leading light in this industry, talking about marketing, finance, guest service, technology, anything that'll help you run a stronger restaurant. And that's for free. You can subscribe for free on any major podcast player. But if you go to my website, restaurantrockstars.com, give us your email address. We won't spam you, but you'll get the podcast in your email inbox every week. You can listen to it or watch like you're watching Court and I right now, because we do video and audio podcasts. Yep. And we also have a YouTube channel. So that's totally free and it's valuable information.
Yep. Also a huge resource. So again, Roger, I appreciate you so much. Thank you, everybody. It's always fun, Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Best of success with your restaurant business. I'm here to help if I can.
Yep, we are here to support you. So hope you're all having a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.